Yo, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's time to wake up and realize what you actually need in your life. Tough, yeah, it's a tough choice. Because you're gonna be like, what a weirdo. Yeah, I mean, I literally just slept like this. Can't help it. It's not normal. Today's Monday. And I'm looking for ways to lift the week. Well, I already know what I'm gonna do. Hey, what is this for? I had it in this matchbox. Okay. Yes, so I'm looking for ways to stay warm in winter. And the best way is probably to embrace the cold. So, yeah, I'm working on my new hat. I got past the, adding stitches to get into the spiral. The general color theme is blue. I have trained now also my last couple of, so you see it's taking shape. So yeah, I just woke up, it's Monday. I had a hell of a week. Yesterday I did cleaning. Podcasting, quite a bit of that. Cooking, made some lentil soup. This week I'm gonna cook something with cooking bananas. Not sure yet what. It's just gonna be a meal. I mean, I'm gonna look for something nice and spicy, some kind of chili, because at the moment I still have ceremonial cacao. I may make some type of a lentil curry and then just fried bananas next to it. I mean, you can turn bananas into basically anything. So, planning ahead. I am not just doing this for fun, nor am I constantly experiencing pleasure or something. I am doing this because it is hard to do it. And once you've done it, it's hard to keep doing it. And it's simply what I'm clinging to because it is also still the most fulfilling thing I ever did in my life. The liberation of sharing yourself through content. But apparently it takes a lot of time. If you're doing something serious, and in that sense then also challenging, it takes a lot of time for people to want to work with what you've created because you understood something about fear and about the underlying processes, whatever. And people will be reluctant, because this is a society of holding on. You know, you hold on to your habits, you hold on to, you know, you're still trying to be like you were when you were 16, stupid and ignorant, right? At one point you're just trying to pretend, you know, I'm still like that, you know? I'm still young, I can still do whatever I want. What do you have to prove to yourself? You know, at some point you should just take responsibility. And then you would look like a man, which is why no one that I see that portrays themselves at what we here consider politicians is an adequate example of a fine man. Because they're all kind of chubby, all kind of obese, most of them clean shaven. None of them spends a lot of time in nature. And that's a lot of the role models that we have today. People that are being portrayed as geniuses, they're just clean-shaven little boys that just dabble around with things they don't understand. I mean, it was Oppenheimer's own stupidity that kept shaving his face every day. It's the silliness. You know what I realize when I grow my beard, I become more and more stern. And the longer my beard becomes, the more sterner I become. Until I feel like, okay, it's a bit much now. I'm supposed to be 35, right? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I adapt to what I feel like I ought to be portraying. But at the same time, you know, beard, no beard, hair, no hair, should it have a difference? That's a really good question. You know, why this hat? Well, it's cold, and it's the only hat I crocheted with a double webbing. So I took 2 threads instead of 1, and then I crocheted with 2 threads, which means this hat is twice as thick. And because it's more like a winter hat, I put an old t-shirt, put it in. It's not perfect. I could have done a better job at that. I may do it again at some point. But for me it's alright. I mean, I can keep it that way and just do it for other hats. Make like an inlet. Now I also think I know how I ought to be doing it. Okay, I'm just doing the same thing I'm doing with my podcast. I just hit record and then I just start talking because I don't know what I'm talking about. What is this video about? Nobody told me. I'm just standing here. There's no direction. I just want to show you how I crochet. Because in in this week's Being Creative video, I'm gonna make the dream catcher. So I'll keep nature to myself for some time. Just do stuff on the inside. I'm still working on this idea of, you know, sandpapering all the wooden frames and stuff. But I may keep that to myself as well. Keep that as a nice Saturday or Sunday. Probably it's a good idea for a Saturday. Because if you stay at home, you have to have stuff to do. And until then I can gather the material, I can look at what I can use then I mean, if I sandpaper, then I also have to put something onto these wooden beams. So I have to look if there's something available in the house. If there's not, then I'll probably postpone the sandpapering and wait until something comes up. I mean, I could just use beeswax. I still have beeswax, but I'd rather use it for my feet than for wooden beams. Because when I go hiking barefoot, especially in cold weather, or simply like a long hike that was really strenuous when I come back home. We had first snow yesterday. Nice. I mean, at least this winter, if one wants to separate time into such things as seasons, which are then reoccurring things, right? So, yeah, every winter I struggle against the cold. And every winter it annoys me that I have to struggle against the cold. And then I get used to the cold, and then I struggle against the heat. No, it used to be so much easier. It used to be, I hate the cold, I love the heat. Now both is kind of the same. What I like about heat is you don't have to worry about the cold. What I like about the cold is you don't have to worry about the heat, you know? You just have to dress warm, right? So when it's cold, you have more ways to stay warm than you have to stay cold, you know? When it's hot, it's just hot. But there are few ways to get colder. You can just shower all the time, you know? But when it's cold, I can get hotter by what I eat. And I can, simply depending on what I wear and how much I move, you know? But at the same time, if I am active during a hot day, you know, and I hike through the heat and I come back home, then it's colder, you know? Then I may even feel chilly. And if I hike during a cold day, cold is just a word, of course, it's just two sides of the same coin. And when I then come back from the hike on the cold day, I may feel warmer or colder. Because now I'm also a bit like burned out maybe. Because I used my fire to propel me through the hike. And then when I realize I start to feel a bit sick and like coffee, like in my throat, there's already building up an itch, well, I immediately react. I start eating chili. You know, I work with elemental sulfur or something. I just increase the fire, you know? You have to turn on the oven a little. You have to get the energy moving. Push through. I mean, this is incredible, strenuous in terms of all kinds of things. It's working on the neck, your shoulders. You can just stand like this, right? Or you can crochet like this. Which means that everything I do just becomes, you know, a symptom of stability. You know, I can do this. Sometimes I stand like this for 10, 20 hours. No, it could be nice. Could be nice if I would manage. And then just breathe, keep on breathing. And let's say finish a hat in one go. I mean, that would be nice. Really nice. Or at least it would be interesting. You know, finish a hat in one go. Go for it. Do it. Finish a hat in one go. Wow. That could be a challenge. And what it would teach you would be all kinds of things. Plus it's 20 hours you cannot use your phone. I mean, I don't think crocheting this would only take 20 hours. Maybe when I'm really good at crocheting things. I mean, there's women that can do this in probably a couple of days. But I also have lots of other things to do, such as writing Maximus Time at the moment, and then starting with another project. So I have already books lined up, talking about having ideas. I mean, I have ideas, but I also sort them out. I say, okay, this idea is maybe for later. You know, this idea needs food. This idea needs baking. So I was gathering information for Maximus Time for quite some time. I was just reflecting onto the topics of time. I also was projecting time onto what I observed, what I saw, what came to me in my own life. I was looking for time in it. You know, what's time? Trying to understand it. You know, seeing myself also in the story. And then once I had the feeling, I gathered enough information, I started writing. But in the beginning, I had many tight spots. And then there was a time where I felt like, you know, I was writing there, and then I was writing down in this garden hut, smoking cigarillos. Then I realized, okay, I think I should stop smoking cigarillos. And I should simply do it without. Which I then started doing. Simply stopped smoking. Yeah, and then I had to pick myself up again. Because I realized, you know, the reason I stopped smoking was not just because, I mean, I really observed it. I asked myself, is this something that you can do for a very long time and still lead a good life? And I realized no. Because the way I feel clean and nice just starts vanishing. You know? But I want to feel clean and nice because, you know, that way you can have or could potentially experience things like Tantra. I'm just saying. If you're dirty and stuck, you know, because you need someone who's clean. And you need to be clean because of the law of attraction, and you want to have children together with a woman, and you see spirit, and you don't want to birth children into your own smoking hell or into your coffee anger hell. So you should just stop with these things. You just stop with these things. Because you simply say, hey, I love children, man. But I want them to be happy. I don't want them to worry about me because I sit around smoking. It's not just that, but I want community. I want stability. You know, I want to stand a lot. I want to be active in the community in my own way, which I am. I'm showing the world something. I'm learning. I'm filming it. I'm testing my own boundaries. Which is why I cannot just dump on YouTube and say, yeah, it's bad for the environment and all the servers. Yes, it's really bad. But who's watching it? Am I watching it right now? No. I'm filming this. I'm providing it. I'm forcing no one to watch this. I'm not even advertising it. I just put it out there. No. I know I exist. You know, countries are entirely forgettable. But I know I exist because of what I've done. Well, what has your country done? They're just trying to forget it. Still acting like they're super good. No, you're not good. You screwed up. So I don't want to acknowledge you any longer, you know? I'm just going to pretend like you don't exist. Practice some satyagraha, some civil disobedience. Practice some, you know, I renounce all human leadership, for I look for guidance from spirit. What are you, some kind of a prophet? Like a holy man? No. But I have a really strong connection to spirit. Which is what you can never get from watching this. You may still get it. I'm getting it. But you may never get it. Because I've done all of this. Hiked barefoot for years. Yeah, sure, I tried all these psychedelics. And then I realized it's useless. Because you're psychedelic. So, what people talk about, they usually don't understand. Because they're just afraid. You know, I wasn't afraid, I had respect, that's the difference. Because just fear makes you run away. I had respect. And there are things I'll never touch. And there are things I will never touch again. And that's a fact. And I know because I've proven it to myself and I simply lost interest. Just as you can lose interest in habits. So sometimes you simply have to know what's out there and then realize, well, for me it's more nature, you know. For me it's more nature. I mean, I'm really doing better than ever before. And instead of using weird chemicals, I just go into nature, right? And see what works for me. So I cannot even rely on books overly too much. But there are books that talk to you about shamanism, right? There were people that cooked soups with Amanita muscaria. I mean, I react well to it, but they say it's really bad. So I cannot give you advice on stuff like Amanita muscaria or collecting mushrooms because, you know, people are demonizing it, you know, stigmatizing it, pinching it with their little hate needles like, I hate the fly agaric, I hate the fly agaric. And you say, what's the fly agaric? You know, what's nutmeg? Why is that okay? It's an aphrodisiac, my friend. In your book, that should count as psychedelic. But coffee isn't. No, coffee is no psychedelic. Coffee is just coffee. Oh wow, let's drink some charred bean liquid, you know. Let's take some coffee cherries, take out the seeds, you know, dry them, ship them around the globe, then roast them really long until they're really charred. And after they've been charred, you just let them sit for a couple of days, that the aroma really develops, you know. Oh yeah, there's vanilla in it. Yeah, tastes of chocolate. Yeah. And then you grind it, and then you pour hot water on top, and then you drink it like this. Oh, it's so good, charred beans. And that's then the way of living here. You know, getting off on drinking charred beans, like, oh, they're so charred. You know, maybe I should make you some nice steak and really char the fuck out of it, you know. Like char it until it's just black crust. And then I'll give it to you, I say, and that's what you like, right? Charred food, really charred food. Not just a bit charred food, but like really charred food, you know. Let's have a French roast, you know, 18 minutes or something. Until they're as black you can handle. You know, as charred goes. And then I'll just, or maybe I'll do it like this, I'll just take the meat. I mean, you like meat, right? How about charred meat? How about charred meat liquid, yeah? So I'll just roast the meat until it's super charred. And then I put it into a grinder. Then I pour hot water on top and you're gonna be like, super charred. Then everybody's gonna run around drinking that. Hey, have you tried charred meat liquid? I hear it's still, the latest idiocracy. The latest stupid move of bored humans. I mean, just think about how it developed. How did it develop, like seriously? I mean, I can get how, like how a shaman sees a fly agaric, thinks, let's try that. Eats it, and suddenly he probably feels a bit nauseous, but he just walks through it, or just breathes through it or something, or just sits by the fire with it. And then suddenly he's in a state of elevation. It's like, what is this, I no longer feel afraid. And then he goes berserk into his own life, chops wood like a maniac. It's like, wow, power. And then other people see him and they're like, what an animal, he's a beast, shoot him. Yeah. The story of the Vikings, literally. And then you read this book. I mean, it's just insane if you're looking at censorship, how people can write something about something and just leave stuff out. I don't even want to, Daniel McCoy, The Viking Spirit, yeah? The book about Viking mythology and all that kind of stuff, And then you look into it, there's parts about religion, there's part about traditions, also sacrificing and ceremonies. Not once does he mention the ingestion of mushrooms in this book. Not once! He left it out deliberately. Possibly because maybe he had someone looking over it and they said, you want to publish this? Not with us. You can check what's it published with. I mean, how are you supposed to understand a culture and write a book about it if you don't understand what their worldview was like? I mean, I understand their worldview. I mean, how can you just... It is known. Maybe it's print on demand. Yeah, print on demand. So he could write whatever he wanted, and he just left it out completely. Oh, the Norns. Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I cannot say whether any of these stories are to be taken literally, but you see stuff with the magical eye, you see stuff with the other eye, and you bring it both together. And how can you write a book about Viking spirit without having tried it yourself first? So if you look at the image, it's not in here, but I've seen an image of the author. What you realize is the guy's kind of like, he's just a scholar. He's just a scholar, man. He's not a Viking. And while reading this, he must have come across the mushroom cult. The mushroom as a central part of the Viking mythology, worldview, way of living. And he deliberately chose to leave it out because it is being seen as dangerous, And he was probably afraid of even talking about it. Because anything that makes you a part of nature in this society is just being rejected. You don't want to be called a savage. Yeah. You don't want to be called a savage. Why not? Call me a savage. Yeah. Because this way I can get to live an honest life. And if it makes me a savage to stop brushing my teeth, because I think it's the honest way, and it saves a lot of time. If it makes me a savage to just cut my beard with scissors the way I feel, if it makes me a savage to not use deo because I smell the way I smell, and I do my cleansing, so what's the stench? It's your deo. You see what I'm saying? Why people don't like me in their vicinity? Because I'm like this all the time. It keeps the junk away. You come into my presence, I'll be like this. What are you? I mean, I'm not gonna be like penetrating your space or something. I'm just gonna be like this. I don't know, how am I? As obtrusive as I can be, because I don't want people coming, he's a danger. No, I think you're a danger. Because you're super unconscious, while I'm hyper-focused. No. I'm severely connected. Yeah? I know what I'm doing. I'm nature's secret agent. Living amongst today's speck of ignorance. Hey, let's just ignore the fact that we are actually coming from nature and act like we're not. Maybe we'll get away with it. Yeah. And where are you gonna go? Because nature always catches up. So yeah, as a young boy, I had these so-called friends, which were never really friendly. Just always looking for ways to dominate each other. I don't know, maybe it's normal. It's possible. What happened? Well, I can tell you. Yeah, I'm just scouting my mind. I'm waiting, okay? I'm waiting for what I wanted to say to come back to me. I'm focusing intently on what I feel like I lost so I can retrieve it, right? So sometimes you have to focus intently on your childhood to retrieve it. What was I missing, And then you look at it and you see the little child and you start embracing it, which is why I stay away from brutes. And I carry little Christopher like this through my entire life. So I get to be cozy and warm. So that when the day comes and my wife gives me children, if that should ever happen, I'm just saying, it's always a possibility, of course, I'll hold them like this, But not in front of the camera, like never in front of the camera. Or so I assume. Sure, everybody wants to see your child, yeah. But I'm here, You cannot focus on anything else but myself. Because I learned how to focus. So when you're entering my space, I'm like this. Who are you? What are you doing here? So you're trying to enter my family constellation. I'm gonna look at you real close. I'm gonna figure out what your hidden intentions are. What is your little speck of darkness that you think justifies your behavior? Because I've looked at my specks of darkness, like the large chunks, I acknowledged them, I let them go. And then I learned to simply accept them and also integrate them and realize, okay, what was I missing as a child? You know, attention. But not the kind of attention that looms over you and says, that's what we want you to do. But the kind of attention that simply observes a child, just like keeps it safe, but gives it also space to experience, which in this society, you know, in this society, it's just not a safe environment. Okay, how would it have been? How did it used to be? You lived in nature, in the forest. You knew that leaving the house, at some stage, you know, you may have to face bears or wolves or maybe a hungry fox, depending on how big you are. When you're a child, of course, smaller things are a bigger threat. And when you're bigger, smaller things are less of a threat, but bigger things still are. So, until a certain age, a child would probably rarely leave the village and the protection of the people and the mother. And then from a certain age, the father would start taking the child into the forest. Well, nowadays, everything in the forest is dead. I mean, you have small animals, but everything's kind of shy. You don't have large groups of animals roaming around. You know, animals are kind of skittish. They probably always were, but I'm just saying. Plus, I don't spend enough time in nature. Not nearly enough time to also know where animals are and stuff. But that's the times today. I mean, you can go hiking safely, more or less, with your child. Even at a small age, I mean, you can go hiking with your child on your back, right? Because if you're missing, like today, let's say, in today's world, you feel like on the inside you're like a nomad. But you're just stuck in this apartment all the time. Well, then just travel in your mind. Like, you simply say, hey, something's stuck here, I think we need to go travel a little. Just pick your wife, your child, and we say, we're just gonna make a round, 30 kilometers today. We have to travel to another land. I mean, you may say it's make-believe, but in spiritual terms it's not. Because it's about letting go and moving on. So you pack yourself as you are today, and then you go for a 30-kilometer hike, and this hike is gonna change you. Which means that if you come back, you're someone else. You see what I'm saying, right? This works. I've tested it. At least for myself, I am making progress and I change. I go for a hike. I make a round, I come back. I mean, this still looks the same, but I have changed because I chose to go for a hike instead of sitting around and watching a movie. It's also about the energy I channel. I leave the house, you know. What people don't understand is that we all channel energy, and that you can just channel energy into cities, but then the city is gonna run dry at some point, which is why they just create deserts. But if everyone in a city would not sit around and just get fat and just watch movies, but if people would live in a city, and then each of them would have their speck of nature where they would frequently go to. then they would always bring back fresh energy, fresh wind, change. And then we'd be used to changing. But here people are used to holding on, to clinging. Wow. So now I stand here, I actually feel cold. I haven't eaten yet. So I'm practicing meditation in my own way while I'm talking to you. So this story with the so-called friends is kind of evading me. I may get it. Okay, what was that about? Oh yeah, they were talking about something about cars or maybe soccer teams. But the color blue, just the word blue, color blue came up. And they were talking about cars and colors, I think. Maybe first about soccer and then they got to cars and then they talked about that. And then they talked about the color blue. And the only thing I heard was the blue. And in my mind, I just started shooting like, you know, from blue to water. And suddenly I was in the ocean. And there were dolphins. And the dolphins were like communicating to me. I was supposedly 16 or something. And I said into the group, do dolphins breathe underwater? And there was one guy who seemed like a friend at the time. He was like, what? It's like, we were just talking about something else. How do you come up with this? Like, what? I don't know, man. You were talking about, you know, and I still remember. But what I saw into it started to change because I kept dwelling on this memory, trying to understand why that happened, how it happens. I mean, I always felt this deep connection to the ocean because I'm an Aquarius. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. You know? You can count on that. I'd rather be living in some warmer climate. I don't know, I just sometimes feel that way. Sometimes I feel like I'd love living in Jordan or these types of countries. But I'm here now, so I can't help it. I could, but I also started to warm up to this area now. And I love snow. I also love the cold. It's just hard to get used to it. It's like starting to enjoy bitter when you're used to sweet. So you're just used to heat because when it's cold you have warm shoes and the heater is always on. And you just run from one heated environment to the next heated environment. Unless you're in a Christmas market and then you're just gonna get drunk so you don't feel the heat. Well, to me it's still a challenge every winter to leave the house. Not because it's simply a challenge to leave the house, I'd say the challenge is because you're always, it's like separation and then getting back, separation, and it's like being in a marriage and then being separated and then having sex, which is then connection, and then again separating, you know, and then, okay, when ought we to connect again? Well, maybe not for 5 years, you know, I don't know. Because you only have one true lover. The rest is just make-believe. But yeah, I'm getting hungry. It's just that I just don't have that much food. I mean, I have food, but if I'm running out of money, I'm just saying. I'm just running out of money. So I can't just go around and just buy all the food that I want and then eat to my heart's content. So sometimes I started to build up meals. Because I also want to learn to simply be stable. You know? Maybe have one proper meal per day and then just stay erect and alive, you know? Until the next meal comes up again. And that's a lot of work, because you need to learn to simply accept the energy that you receive, just like that. So every time you feel anger, that's food. Every time you feel sorrow or sadness or misery, you just digest it. Keeps you alive. Hopelessness, you know, very tasty. I go to you, you're like, and I'm like, I'll eat that, you know. And you say, what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about digesting emotions. Yeah, I feel drawn to making myself some tea. But I'm just starting to warm up, right? I mean, you're starting to get cold, you start walking. I mean, there's things I can do. Yesterday I just started moving around. I drilled a hole there, did something there, was thinking about, okay, when can I do this? You know, sandpaper this, it's gonna make me warm, right? So I have to stay occupied. You know, at one point you don't want to crochet or just make dream catchers. So that seems to be a job that I should be looking into, just sandpapering. It's not that much work, it's just to freshen it up. And it's gonna look completely different, it's gonna be shiny again. And sure, for that maybe I can make this wood butter, which consists of beeswax and then coconut fat. And then you just heat it up in a water bath, mix it, and there you go. And then you can sandpaper. I don't have these many wooden things. And you could use it just sparingly. It's hard to say now. and then you just shh, and there you go. And then you also, it's because it's an energetic kind of cleansing. You're freshening it up. People have touched it, right? Weird things may have happened here. And you don't want that. Plus there's all these stains. You just sandpaper them out. By hand, of course. You don't use machines for that. And then you've got your workout. But of course, at some point, there's little you can do in your apartment. And then you get restless, so it's good to know how to crochet, it's just my opinion. And at the moment, it's just, the times are very aggressive. People are very angry because they're missing an outlet, so they're just miserable. And if they see that you've got some kind of light, they just start looking for ways to get it away from you. So you stay away from people that steal your light, because you probably know better what to do with your light than they. Because if they knew what to do with light, then they would not be as empty as they are, right? They choose to be devoured. You cannot help that. So it's better to become a pillar and simply shine than to just give it to everyone. I mean, still the highest amount of people you can reach is simply by creating content. And you could say it's today's benefit, but it's also its curse. Because I'm living in this virtual reality, but in the community I'm somewhat unalive. I mean, you see me sometimes running around, usually to nature. So I have restricted my, where you see me is very limited. And I never go to the same place twice, in a row. I usually keep on changing the routes I take, so I just want to be unpredictable. So that people cannot say, yeah, you always see him there at that time. I don't have times. I'm just saying. There are a lot of people who are like stalkers, and I've already met some. People that try to follow you home and stuff, because they want to escape their own place. Now, I'm a bit like Santa Claus. You kind of vaguely know where I am, but, you're not quite sure if it's a good idea to go there. Because Santa Claus isn't just this nice guy, he's got a shadow too. He's probably some kind of like a fairy thing, so he's got magic. And what my presents are insights. It's like here, something like this, have a vision of how your life could be if you started taking it seriously. Because I'm still taking this serious. However funny you think I am, I'm still taking this serious. I'm not sure if you're getting this. You may think I'm some kind of a joke. You look at this like, the Mad Hatter talk. Chuckling to yourself. What a good idea. It's like, no. It's just what, I'll know you'll be projecting. Oh, that guy's crazy. Yeah. At least he figured out what coffee does. Well, tell me, what does it do? What's the point? You're drinking it. Start observing yourself. What are your thoughts like? How do you treat other people? How do other people treat you? Do you feel like you're safe company for children? Do you have trust issues? And then stop drinking coffee. Yeah, gonna be a tough ride, my friend. And then you start drinking bitter. You know, like herb mixtures with bitter herbs in it. You're like, what? That's supposed to do it now for me? Bitter for the rest of my life? Yeah, and that's why you don't eat it like, I have to eat this because it's supposed to be healthy. No. I'm just learning to appreciate the taste of bitterness. I mean, I really crave for it. I start enjoying it. And there's different kinds of bitter. And that's super nice. And that also helps me to be stern. And it keeps corruption out. Because you're simply out of balance. And mostly probably because of your diet. And you think I'm just weak. No. It's just you've got a really unbalanced diet, my friend. You should start changing that. And when it all wants to come out at once, you puke. So you have to learn to let it flow sparingly, just a bit. So in the beginning, there's like a lot of motivation, and then you throw it all out in one amazing hike, or in one run, and then your motivation to run is gone. Well then, instead of trying to run again, to recreate this, wow, you just realize, maybe I'm not supposed to do this all the time. Maybe I'm supposed to go running when I really feel like running. Because I build up energy and then I go for a run. Or I build up energy and I go for a hike, which is much longer. Or I build up energy and I stand here and meditate. Just hold the energy. The spiritual construct of the house. So there's living people in this house. And what I have started realizing is that the moment I arrived here and I started channeling, people started to change. Things started to change. Because, and maybe I'm just imagining this, but wow. Talking is such a nuisance, my friend. I can talk to you about what coffee does, but what does it do? Figure it out, man. Drink it, don't drink it, compare it, With me it was drink it, don't drink it again, don't drink it again, don't drink it again. And then all the struggle and stuff. No, I'm making a coffee fast, I cannot drink coffee, but I really want to. Yeah, I still do, man. Because I still like charred bean liquid. It's just that I realized that it's making me more and more toxic. And what I drink today, probably what I like about it, and that's a possibility, is just the warmness of it. That could already have an effect. It's not so much that it has to be coffee. That's actually a possibility. But that it's actually just drinking something warm. But now you've been talking yourself into drinking coffee, and sure, let's face it, coffee does have stuff. Like, it gets foamy when you cook it and stuff. So there are things in it. But why do you have to char it first? And I mean, if you can get used to stuff like coffee, you can get used to anything. I mean, if you can get used to drinking charred bean liquid, then you can get used to drinking, I don't know, juniper berry tea or something. Or Heidelberger 7 Herb Star. Or, this is also slightly bitter. It's called Kalmus. But it doesn't say the Latin name. Well, if you look this up, Kalmus root, Kalmus root. It's also a bit bitter. Yeah, I'm not saying this is always super easy. I mean, I feel warm, I feel cold, I feel warm, I feel cold. I constantly have this. You know, I move, it's good. If I stop moving, I just start feeling cold again. Which is what keeps me warm during a winter hike. Even in bare feet, it's the movement. Okay, was there anything I missed? Yeah, coffee, just sugar stuff. Because nothing in nature is just pure sugar, right? Nothing in nature is just pure starch. It's always a mixture of things. You know, and what we call bitter also contains sweet, but in a balanced way. So sugar is an extract. Oh yeah, getting back to the idea how did they first start with drinking coffee? It's just not, it's very shadowy. And I have drunk coffee, sometimes just kept on drinking it. And then at 12 at night, you know, I drank my last one. And suddenly I felt like I just died. And that cannot be good. Sometimes you just have to really see what something does to understand the consequences of drinking it. I mean, you can highlight anything's benefit just because you want to sell something. You know? And that's basically most information you get out there is simply exactly that. So I could highlight the benefits of my books, but I can also highlight the benefits of figuring it out by yourself. I mean, you can just work with what I've worked with. You can read Dune. I've read the 5th season. I don't know, all this sexual stuff was a bit annoying. This weird threesome just got boring. But that's also what the story kind of showed. It's not really of interest to just add more people because it means less focus. You know, why I'm interested in simply a relationship with one woman is because then I can get, you know, we can focus on each other intently. And then we can focus on our children. But not in the sense of, how can I get you to give me pleasure? But I've already figured it out for myself, you know. I can do this. I simply need to be creative as much as I can. and then find ways how to stay warm and humble. So flattery is a real problem. Oh, you're doing this really good. What are you talking about? Just focus on yourself, man. I'm not your child. You don't have to talk me into, because if I want to do this, I'll do it. Your flattery just puts me off. So just say nothing and just do what you want to do. What's flattery for? What? You want to have a thank you? Do you think I can do it better because of your flattery? No. Because your flattery is just a distraction. It just turns you into some kind of demonic weirdling. So once you start flattering me, I'll find ways to get rid of you. Because I don't need your flattery. If I want flattery, I could do it myself. I don't have to have you to flatter me. Which is why anyone who needs some kind of like a henchman just isn't enough by himself. I mean, sure, there is still something missing in my life. But I can also do it by myself if I want to. And then I still get to have nice moments, and then there are moments that are hard. But anything can be seen as a challenge. And then, yeah. It starts with a choice. Somewhere, probably. And some choices are easy to make, and some are harder to make. I chose to let go of people I thought were friends because I realized, they never understood me. I was just something they could look and marvel at. I wasn't something they could really relate to, whatever that is. So I simply let go of it. Because I don't want to surround myself with people that are jealous or something. I simply invested a lot of time in honing my abilities, and I did not sit around moping about things I was missing. Sometimes I do. I wallow into myself, and that's okay, and then I pick myself up and do something. Yeah, so I carry my own burden, and I get a bit cross with people who try to push their burden onto me. I mean, I have gone through a lot of shit just for existing. I had to take a lot of shit from people. And then I said, here, digest it yourself. Have some honesty. I really don't like you. Cheers. In the end, all you have to do is just wait. Keep people at bay. And then they start getting angry. And then you just push them out. So a lot of people that contacted me for friendship were super dishonest about it. Because they weren't really interested in me. They were just interested in not being alone. I was just someone they thought they could use to wiggle out of being alone. And then I simply said, well, I'm trying to push myself through. So in a sense, then I have to also be a bit selfish with myself. Because I often feel like, I hope that literally there is a life with my wife and children, but if there isn't, then I shouldn't give a shit. I mean, I really mean that. I shouldn't care. Because if I accept myself, then what do I care what other people think I am supposed to do? You think I ought to shoot stuff into my arm? What for? Because you're getting richer? The more people you can talk into, getting stuff shot into their arm? It's like, no. I am aware of the spiritual dimension, my friend. And I know a spider when I see one. I simply know a spider when I see one. And when I came to the life, I noticed that there was something I can do. No. I could find myself a vision. Go to nature and push through. Go to nature and push through. Well, I will. But in my own time. And sometimes you really need to build it up. And the reason I may record more videos indoors is simply because it is extra strenuous when it's cold, for me specifically. And I have to take more injuries into account also with cold. So I have to also focus on my feet and stuff during hiking, on my breath, because I don't want to freeze. So whatever I've said also, I also think there is great benefit. Which doesn't mean I'm not going to go into nature during winter. I will. But maybe without the camera. And maybe I will bring the camera occasionally. But at the moment, to me, it's also important to simply make my own progress. And also hike without talking. To see the hiking as something where I can simply be on my own. Without all these electronics and stuff. And just push through out there in nature. Wow. This is really a relief for the lower back. It's simply a natural way of sitting. Wow. This is so nice. Standing can be really bad as well. Especially when you're doing it on your own. It's more strenuous. Crocheting like this is completely different. I'm just saying. Can bring this down a little. So I react. To how I feel. Right? When I'm in winter and it's cold, I can react to how I feel. And sometimes maybe I feel like just retreating into my cave. And then eat at the right moment. Whoa. Okay, now which color? From the black we go into the flashy again. So that's just my way. My way on the highway. Because this is more active. Every time I sit with crossed legs, this happens, which means this is not straight. So every time I sit with crossed legs, I try to keep this straight so that I don't do this, because this is more prone to injury. This is less prone to injury. And I see a lot of people that sit a lot like this, you know, they're not really straight any longer. Because to me it's all about movement and stability. You know, I cannot talk myself into that, you know, sitting like this or something is really good, because it's not natural. I'll rather sit in a squat. And when I cannot feel my legs any longer, you know, I just do like this. Then people think they can look at you with contempt or something. And then you say, well, try, you know, you're just too weak to sit like this. And then they try to portray you as, why aren't you sitting on a chair? You're like, because it's stupid and it makes you weak. Oh yeah? Do you think so? What are you talking about? I mean, so they don't know how weak they really are. And that means they are the ones living in a fantasy, where they talk themselves into, I'm super awesome, but you're not. Because in order to be extraordinary, you have to go further in figuring out who you are and then honing those skills. Just sitting around thinking yourself into you're really great doesn't mean you're great at all. It's just whitewashing your inadequacies. Well, I simply started to work with my inadequacies and simply started to build up experience. And then you can say I'm the Mad Hatter, but at least I get shit done. You know, and I can say I'm the Mad Hatter, but it's just a way of portraying myself. Because I like this, you know, I like the bit of madness that gets you to simply see an idea and then, you know, feed life into it. Because today, that already counts as mad, right? People who actually work. That counts as mad, you know, it counts as crazy to just go hiking. Well, it used to be normal. It used to be normal to go from village to village, you know, having to run errands, doing this or doing that. So I simply started to look for an adventure in my own life. And I realized, wow, magic exists, you know. There is magic. It's just really hard to explain this to someone. You just have to feel it. Because magic in that sense is just energy with an intent. So you can build ceremonial space just by cleaning your mind. And in that space, yeah, then you can open up. But if you're dirty, I don't want you to open up in my space. Because all the demons from your hell are just gonna come out here. And then I don't want to have my children running around. So I'm just saying, the underworld exists, and it has all the stuff you were trying to bury. Which is why
working with mushrooms or anything means you have to look at, you know, what you've got hidden. But you don't have to take anything for that. I mean, I don't see the difference between what people say is edible and other things. In the end, you have to know how to work with it. I mean, people talk about hallucinations. I simply acknowledge, you know, I just look at what I'm seeing. They just call it a hallucination so they can talk themselves into that it's not real. I simply work with what I've seen and then grow with it. And that's taking responsibility. So if you're ingesting something that is known to give people visions and stuff, and then you're complaining about the visions you've received, and then call it a horror trip or whatever, then you're clearly not getting the message. You've just been shown, my friend. Now you have to learn to get out of it. Right? So you're living amongst demons, and your life is being navigated by other beings, maybe. So you gotta find a way out of it. And I'm not as tough. I mean, I'm super tough. And in relation to people I see today, I'm super tough. This video is coming to an end, by the way. I'm just feeling it. I'm running out of motivation to talk here. So I sit here and I listen while I'm doing crochet, and I pick up snippets. Random things that I hear. Sometimes I hear conversations. Sometimes I hear all kinds of things. Sometimes you see things. Because anything anyone does reverberates through the ether. And when you're connected and you pick up energy vibrations and you're honing your skills, then you, let's say, know who's out there looking for you. And if you can feel the presence of a woman trying to get to you, then all you have to do is ask yourself whether you would want to build a life with her. But once you've already chosen, then picking up on other women's energy and knowing whether they want to get to you, it's just going to keep you safe. From cheating, because that's also kind of a hell, which I don't want. Because when you fall in love with a woman, you may see her also as the little girl that had dreams and ambitions, that kind of stuff. Why should she go all out? Why should she, devote herself to her man if her man isn't devoted to her? I'm just saying. So marriage used to be a practice of devotion. So I can stay devoted disregarding of my partner's devotion, My partner can cheat, but I don't have to cheat. But the cheating of my partner may have as a consequence then separation. Well, too bad then, right? You gotta stick it out with yourself. And that's what I'm preparing to do. And the better I get at dealing with myself, the easier I can also deal with other people, because then I know exactly what I want and when I want it. Which means I don't have to run after women or men as friends or something, or lost father figures, because I can be my own daddy, right? I found that there is some kind of a father in me, and I found there is some kind of a child in me. So I know how to give it all to myself. But sometimes you just let go of certain things and you say, you know what? If sex is just being used to manipulate and control me, then it can't be that great. So I'll just work on my stability. And then in the end, you may just have sex to have children, because the rest just happens on the inside, just by being connected to spirit. And then you feel like you're having sex all the time, literally. Then your life becomes orgasmic. So then you say, well, what could your partner really give me? Well, it just depends, If you've chosen a partner and that partner comes, then you can make it nice. And if you've chosen a partner and no partner comes, then you can make it nice. I mean, you can make your life nice. This can be nice. But a camera is not a real person. And it may even be seen as running away. Maybe I am running away. Or maybe I am taking responsibility and I simply teach in the way that seems to be appropriate today. It's all possible. And now I feel like eating, and then I don't want to, for all kinds of reasons, but I will eat soon. I will make like a snack just for myself, and then later I'll cook something proper. I still have lentil soup, so I could also record just frying bananas, eating it with the lentil soup, just making like a bread next to it. Should just keep these recordings sometimes a bit. It doesn't have to be necessarily short, but then sometimes you just want to get it out of the way, because I don't have that much special food at the moment. I have bulgur, I have lentils, I have cooking bananas. But the problem is, if I eat now, then I cannot eat later. And that is a problem, to me at least. Could also make myself some pop. I've already done that. So I think I'll stick with the bananas. Fry a chili with it. And this is like plank training, right? You can simply hold a plank. Okay, this is really hard. But it certainly makes you warm. And if you can do this for an hour, then I think you figured something out. And then it starts to tingle here, which I feel is good. Sometimes you stretch out your shoulders and your hands start like literally. You can do stuff like this and you feel like you're stretching here. And suddenly there's something being released and your whole arms are like vibrating on some insane level. So yeah, stop touching people, figure out your diet, see until it's stable. I'll just say, watch movies until you're sick of it. Because once they get boring, you will have your way out. That's just my approach. I did things until I could never, until I could no longer talk myself into, I like doing it. You just do it until it becomes a drag. Because there's actually other things you feel like doing. And then you simply do that instead. And if your desire to do crochet keeps getting bigger and bigger, if you keep ignoring it, you just feel like a fool. So at some point you just say, you know what? I'm just gonna stop watching movies and just do crochet instead. And then maybe still once in a while, maybe you do go to the cinema. Like I'm planning to go and watch a movie on New Year's Eve and then come back and do a yoga session. Seems nice enough to me. It's a nice way to start a new year. Last year I did podcasting through New Year's Eve, recorded episodes for my German podcast, and then finished both my podcasts for the entire year. Then simply kept on going. So yeah, now I'm working towards 2026. We're approaching 2025. So that's what I need to stay on top of things. Because now you say you're a content creator. Well, then you have to keep creating. Because if you stop, right? In the content creation world, you simply have to give people stability. That's what it's actually for. And if people want to follow you as some kind of like a spiritual leader or someone who has a direction, well, then you better, you just keep going. Unless you lose interest, you just want to do something else, well, then do that. But then go all in, right? No way. There's just putting out this terrible salt, which was already a reason not to go barefoot. If people wouldn't drive around with cars and would be more safe on their feet, you wouldn't need salt at all. We could just walk around in a landscape of snow. But instead, we just make the world more toxic for comfort. Right? I mean, the stuff that we do just to feel comfortable. But Zen is about enduring hardship so that even tough conditions are comfortable. Because you endured worse, right? You endured worse. But today it's still a challenge because it's seemingly self-imposed. Yeah, every winter that I live through with less heating means that the cold is becoming more and more acceptable. Because the first 27 years of my life, I was being told that cold is bad and is making you sick. Well, what I started seeing is that too much warm is actually bad and is making you sick. Unless you're living somewhere, but even in Spain, there are a bit warmer phases and a bit colder phases. So there is no environment which is always the same temperature. No environment. Well, maybe the equator is a bit more stable, right? I mean, I think we get that. But I think it's better to simply learn how to deal with the cold, no matter how hard it may seem. And then just find ways that work for you. So like I said, crochet works for me. Slacking off is childish. Not even childish, it's just one's own stupidity. So you have to build up stamina, because this is hard work. Crochet is hard work. Watching a movie is just sitting around. So you want to become more and more stable. And if this becomes a normal posture for me, then imagine now you've got a wife. You can be like this, and she can come and sit on you, twist around you, and you have no problem to hold her like this. Then you're the pillar, you get it? You're the mountain she's trying to overcome, right? Just imagine. That's why being strong and tough and strenuous, we're not talking about I'm going to the gym. I'm talking about this kind of strength. To also hold the energy, to keep it flowing. And then the woman comes into the space. And then there's going to be children, but it's also just going to be nice. I mean, I lost interest in sex not because it wasn't nice, but because it was never stable. And the women never stayed. Which is why I said, I want the woman to stay. But yeah, marriage is also about respect. So you have to learn respect. And I think we all can do that in our own way. Okay. You know, sometimes it becomes a drag. But that doesn't mean it's bad, it's just sometimes if it becomes too heavy or annoying or a nuisance, just stay silent for some time. Just build up some strength. So while you're doing crochet, you can think about what to cook. That's what you do, you know, you're taking time. Now you can have an open mind, because when you're watching movies or you're looking at screens, they fill your mind with stuff that is completely irrelevant to you. Yeah, in most cases. I mean, you can learn. I have learned things from movies, but in the end you just want to just, you know, be here and then just feel into, okay, what could I make for food, you know? What do I even have? You don't want to buy stuff, you want to use what you have available. You feel like you're running on empty, but it's okay. You know, you're gonna get by. That's what you know. Even if it's just a meal with just bulgur, right? You know you can somehow push through. There may be tight spots in your life. Also as content creator, or when you're self-employed, or you're just trying to figure out your meditation or something, there's going to be tight spots, so you have to know how to get through them. I realize I'm in a tight spot now, so I simply have to see how to get through that. So it's good to know that you can fast if you had to. So an experience in fasting may be incredibly beneficial because it's going to blow your mind. You're going to know, wow, I survived without food for 6 days. I never knew it was possible. Suddenly you realize that energy is also coming from elsewhere. Because where is your motivation coming from? That's energy, isn't it? And then you eat something and then the motivation is gone. Okay. So in that sense, there's actually not that much material from Terence McKenna because he was overindulging himself. You know, he actually died pretty fast. And he never realized it, that all this smoking and all this overindulgence ultimately just made him somewhat unalive. He just retreated back into the shadows. That's why his teachings are no longer of interest to me. Because he never really did anything but just take mushrooms and smoke. While yoga is actually hardship. And if there's no hardship by itself, then you have to introduce it. And that makes it so hard because then it's an active choice, right? But it may not be so hard a choice because it just, you realize it's necessary. I was depressed, I was miserable, I hated my life. Now I'm picking up speed, I'm running stable. What more do I want? It works for me. That's more than I ever had. So give me a bit of hardship, I feel cold now, so it gets me to move. Is that so bad? Motivation for moving. And then I can do this. I don't always have to do really crazy stuff. I can just do this. But to some people that may already seem crazy. And I say, what are you talking about? Like, seriously, this is not crazy. It should be normal. I'm just looking for food all the time. Always looking for something else. No, I'm on my toes now. Okay. And then in winter, you start walking around the apartment on all fours, you'll get warm. Plus, it's your training, part of your life, movement.